All right. Good evening, Powerful Parent Club. We got a special late night edition here, and special guest joining us in the midst of all of this madness and excitement and stress and frustration and anxiety. We're very lucky to be joined by Mital Patel, who she'll introduce herself in more detail. But she's a conscious parenting coach, Ayurveda specialist, as well as a host of other backgrounds. In addition to being a chemist and having a really interesting journey to to coaching and parenting and learning. So if you are here, say hi, take a deep breath. I know we're still waiting for election results to fill in, which feels crazy, but you know what? In the meantime, let's stay positive. Let's focus in on the things that we can change and impact where we can. And so shake out some of that negative energy if you can. Let's take a quick deep breath. Let that all out. And one thing I noticed with all the stress and anxiety is a lot of jaw clenching, and so a lot of people will feel that in their mouth. Maybe when you woke up this morning, you felt a little bit stiff, and some folks don't realize that physical therapists actually treat TMJ or TMD, temporomandibular disorder. And so one thing we're going to do here just to loosen our jaws up a little bit, get a little more relaxed for this conversation. You put your hand right underneath the bottom of your jaw and keeping your mouth closed. You practice opening. So you're trying to open your jaw, but you don't actually get there. So you're pressing into your hand. We're actually opening the space at our temporomandibular joint. So hold that for a second and relax it. You might notice some of that relaxation coming on at the joint. So hold it for about 5 seconds. Hard to talk and do this at the same time. And then relax, shake it out. One more time. Pressing down. And all right. And shake it out. So we're gonna just shake all the wiggles out right now. If you have questions, feel free to post them in the comments section. At any point, and we'll try to fit that in. And if not, we're gonna just chat and talk about some different things that parents can benefit from. So, folks, welcome to the Powerful Parent Club. Mital Patel. Let's add you to the stream. Hello. So good to have you here. Thanks for taking some time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate, and I enjoyed the exercise actually. I didn't know that this, but it feels good.
Yeah. If we're using those muscles, it's always important. I tell parents this all the time. We want to think about
I didn't even know that there's so much tension here. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and a lot of that tension is important because we got to eat, right? You got to be able to open and close your mouth, chew and bite off things that are pretty heavy.
When you started, I was like, wait, but this is jaw. Like you're not. You're a physical therapist. And I was like, wow, this is so cool today. How you mentioned this is one of the practices that you guys.
Yeah, it's really so I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of I know a lot of folks here won't know about Ayurveda and some of your background, so I'll let you'll do a better job of letting folks know what you do, and then I'm looking forward to just chatting about everything and focusing in on some ideas that parents can walk away with in terms of helping them feel a little bit better and reducing some of that normal stress that we've all got right now.
Definitely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for creating this space and inviting me. I really appreciate the sacredness and the space that you're giving out. I appreciate everyone and each and everyone who's here and who's watching us. So yeah, you said my name is Mital. I am a conscious parent coach certified by Jay Shetty, and I've been working with parents where I take parents on a journey from awareness to competency. We go on 9 stages. It's a journey. Most of the time, we parents think that parenting is about kids. And so I have started a movement to break that myth that it's not about kids, rather it's about us parents, and it's about us protecting our energy and helping our kids. So that is my
Right on. So that's why we connected so well. Our philosophies line up just beautifully.
yeah, no, and because most of the time when we go into the parenting space, we all think like, oh, how can I fix my kid, or how can I fix, always looking into fixing things. And that's where, well, that's why I am doing what I'm doing, because like you mentioned, I am so fascinated by Ayurveda. I've been studying for past 2 years and I'm still studying. I feel like it's never ending journey for me, and I actually am willing to be, and I want to be a student of life and always just learn. And one of the concepts that I learned in Ayurveda, that it's about the root cause. It's about the prevention. You don't suppress the symptom, or you don't just fix the symptoms. You need to go to the root level. You got to ask why. So when we have a headache, we go to PCP and they just like, okay, yeah, here's, you got to take Tylenol or Motrin. Or if we have a stomach ache, we just go to GI. Or if we have, any other issue, we go to specialists. But if you go to cardiologists, they don't know what's going on in your stomach. And so that's why I love the Ayurvedic philosophy, and that's why I am all into natural healthcare. That because it's a way of treating you holistically. They look at you as a whole and not just parts of your system or parts of you. And that's why when I wanted to go to the route of parenting, and when I focused on coaching, I wanted to bring that concept together, that it's not about fixing the symptoms. So if our kids are throwing tantrums, it's not about how can I fix the tantrum, but rather can I listen to what he or she is trying to tell me underneath? What's underneath that iceberg? What's hiding? What am I not seeing visually? So that's what fascinated me. And so I really, when I figured that out in my parenthood journey, of last 10 years, and I was like, you know what, this is so cool. And I wish every parent knows this, because this makes our life so much easier. And it helps us understand that we all have our own unique journeys, like our kids, and we all have unique journeys. And we all don't I don't have to be a taskmaster of my kid, or I don't have to control my kid. I don't have to be their owner. Rather, I can guide them and be their support system, and they can guide me, and they can be my support system. So it's like a parallel journey, and we're
Yeah,
called travelers. We're traveling
we
together.
yeah we can learn so much from our kids. It's unbelievable. And I mean, from your there's the holistic approach, and then also when you dive into other different small areas. So for me, like, I focus a lot on movement, and when you watch how your kids move and you move with them, you can learn so much about your body and how you physically are moving, and where you can find, oh wow, I'm really stiff in this one position, or I can't do this one thing that I used to be able to do. And then you can, if you're mindful of that, you can say, all right, what do I need to do to be able to get to that? And
That
then you can solve some of those problems, which kind of
that's an
continue.
amazing point that you just brought up. Like, how the moving with kids can teach us, like, oh yeah, I was able to do that. What happened? It's because we're so we get all polluted by our, the and get influenced by our surrounding and the society, the labels, and whatever's happening, that we forget our true nature. So as a kid, our true nature is like, moving, jumping around. We could do that when we were a kid. We're not able to do it because we forgot how to be, how to live as a kid, and in this whole journey. And that's why, like, it's when you're newly, like, when you're a new parent, you learn all this, like, oh my gosh, I used to do this. Oh, I remember doing this. Like when your toddler does something, oh, I remember eating that soil or like sand. Like I remember going through that phase, and I've seen the pictures like that. So it's funny how we forget our true nature, and we're all covered with the layers. And so I feel, this is, first of all, it's an amazing journey of a parenthood, and I think it's a golden opportunity for us to shed those layers, and to peel them with our kids along with them. And so I mean, I love, and I'm so blessed and thankful that I'm a parent. And when I learned this whole everything about in my parenthood, I really wanted to help others, and I wanted to help because it took me 10 years to understand. My older one's 10. I was like, no, I don't want every parent to go through 10 years. Rather, I have I have learned, and I would like to share that with other parents, and create that same magic and the cool and the calmness that I have been able to create. Now that doesn't mean that I'm always in that phase. I'm a human too. We're all human. We're gonna have those ups and downs. Matter of fact, 2 days ago, I was like still snapping, and my son is like, I think you're a bit cranky. Like, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just too tired because I couldn't say, okay, then do you want to go to sleep early? It's like they are accountability partners. So that's what I do. So, as a parent, I share my experience, and I
And that's a practice. That's not, I mean, your kids, they pick up on what you're throwing out there too, and so they learn and model from us. So our behavior is so important, because if you were just flying off the line and cursing and being aggressive, that's what they learn. But you've showed them this other path, this other way to express themselves and use their emotions, and because they recognize that outwardly they can all, and inwardly they can do both directions, which is amazing, and it's going to serve them so well, in the long run.
I think most of the time you also feel ashamed when our kids say that to you, like, oh, I think you're cranky, and then we get even more mad, like, how dare you say that to me, right? But it's also about, like, yes, it's not about being perfect, but it's also about showing and accepting that you made a mistake, and teaching them, like, we're all humans. It can happen. We're not perfect, and we don't want to be perfect, because being imperfect is the whole miracle and the joyful journey. And it's important to showcase that, because how you mentioned they model. Yes, because we're the mirrors for our kids, and kids are great imitators, so they imitate. So give them something good to imitate, but at the same time, share those flaws too with them, so that they know that they don't have to be perfect, and they can make mistakes too, and they always have our support, and they can always be honest with us. So yeah, I love how we have like a similar philosophy about this whole journey.
Yeah, I mean, so thinking about that concept and the election and all the stress that's building up, have you thought of any like specific concepts on maybe how parents can kind of work to help their kids understand that, and also not feel so
Yeah, I really believe in this concept of energy. So as a chemist, from a science background, as a scientist, I've always been fascinated since my childhood, since I was in science, that energy, the law of thermodynamics, that law, like the energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. And so I love that the law the law of physics that we have. It's about, and it applies to our day-to-day life too. I believe there's 3 stages of energies, and this actually not just about politics, about COVID, or anything, or having a birthday party. This can apply to a smallest scenario to the biggest scenario, that a situation or circumstances that we don't know what's going on, and we're stressed and we're overwhelmed, and we're like just going haywire. It's about the energy. So I believe there are 3 stages of energy. One is reflective energy, transforming energy, and absorbing the energy. Okay, so reflecting energy is about, I act the way you're acting. So if so, like at workplace today, everybody we were all talking about politics, and I am very protective about my energy, and because I know I get carried away easily, and so I didn't want anybody else's energy to affect me. I did extra meditation this morning before going to work, because I knew this is coming. And so 3 stages: reflective energy, absorbing energy, and transforming energy. So I focus on transforming energy. Reflective energies, you act the way the other person is acting. So if they are they are screaming and cursing, you join them. That's a reflective energy, because that's what they are showing you. And so you are like reflecting the similar energy.
That's like parenthood 101 right there. I feel like the biggest thing. Our kids are screaming, we get all flustered, and then it's like,
Yeah,
where did all this
exactly.
happen?
This applies everywhere, right? So then we go into that mode. The second one is about absorbing energy. So yes, the other people, like, so for example, today's example, they were all mad and they were all cursing. I did not if I were to not participate but absorb that energy and hurt internally, that's like I'm not letting it out, but I'm letting it affect internally. So like for kids instance, right? Like if kids are fighting and you're like really you want to say something, but you're holding on to it and you're like trying to hurt yourself, that and getting into that guilt mode, like, oh, what did I do? Like, how did I do or whatever that we parents go through, like, oh, I should have not done this, or I should have never had two kids. How many times do we parents think about that, like when our kids are fighting? And so that's like absorbing energy, because we're absorbing their energy. We're not replying, but at the same time we're just keeping it inside and like just building up, and it's just like just holding on to it. And the third one is transforming energy. That's where I focus, and I wish everybody knows, like focus, like, uses this concept and applies, especially parents, because now, for example, my kids are fighting. Instead of me like getting mad or doing something, why not I protect my energy, keep it cool, at the same time I send them good energy. So like at work today, everybody was like, oh, they were like checking, oh, these are red, these are blue, and I'm like listening, and I was like, inside I'm like, okay, I have my bubble of energy, but at the same time I'm just gonna send them good energy, like, okay, give them the strength, sending prayers, sending blessings, sending love, sending healing energy, like just so that I am protected, but at the same time I'm trying to protect them as well. So that's what I like to focus on, and I wish we all can do the same. I mean, yes, it takes a lot of practice, and we make mistakes too, but I feel that is one of the concepts that I really think would help us to protect, because again, the whole physics, the law fits in here. Like, you cannot change the circumstances. Whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. You can't go there and do something, or you can't just doesn't matter how many times you're going to shout at your TV, it's not going to change what's happening on the other side.
The ballots have been passed. The votes have been cast.
Exactly. What could we do? And in this, and like, especially about today's energy and stuff, like, again, it's good to know certain concept, but sometimes when we really need, these concepts don't come in our head right away. It's like the reminders don't pop in. So like today, like everything's going too much, you're not going to remember, like, oh, let me just transform the energy. You might get carried away, like maybe you're going through that frequency and somebody's frequency is higher than you might even just get pulled towards somebody else's energy. And so when we don't get these the energy concept or reminders, I like to write down my pros and cons, and I like to focus on what can I control, right? Just understanding the circle of our control and what's in my hand, just focus on that rather, right? So it's
Small steps.
small steps, bigger priority. I
Yeah.
I have a control to lower down my the volume of the TV, or I have a control over changing the channel or put something comedy on right now while they're still counting, and not get carried away where the results are not even announced yet. Why not I just focus my energy somewhere else and
This is
have the results?
the big thing. I feel like we talked maybe about this, the Social Dilemma movie and turning off your notifications. It's like one of the biggest things we can do. And I know we're right now on Facebook.
Yeah.
But hopefully when folks are able to filter out and say, okay, like this type of information is something that would be beneficial to me, and I can block that on my calendar and okay, I'm going to spend this time watching or consuming this content that I know is going to help my education or help me get to the next level in something or help somebody else. And then being able to then, when you get off of that, to totally disconnect from that completely, so you can focus in on your kids or on cooking or other arts and endeavors.
And that's so important, right? And I love that movie, by the way. I don't ever watch movies, but documentaries are like my favorite thing to watch. Sometimes if something comes up, And I believe it or not, it's been a year and a half. All my phone notifications are off. Like I schedule things. So okay, if I have something that I really want to watch, whether it's lives or something like this, if I have it, I would schedule it in my phone. Like, okay, so the notification come for my calendar, but no other notifications. So like the Facebook, Instagram, all the social media or email notifications, they've been off for a while. So I just go on my time. Like, okay, 11 a.m. is my email checking time, then I'll just check my emails for 10 minutes. I'd reply to the emails that I can in that time, and that's it. And then just move on.
Yeah, it's a hard thing for a lot of
It's
people
very
to do.
hard. It's so hard because we think, one of the things that during my personal development journey that I learned initially, that uh, one of the concept was like turning off, or turning off your phone at night, or like, putting on vibrations so that you can get that good sleep. Because at night, if the phone is buzzing, like, you can't sleep, or somebody calls. And one of the things that my spiritual teachers said, that, why it's important to put your phone away. And most of the time our answers are, what if there's an emergency? If there's an emergency and if you don't answer, well, guess what? The emergency is going to get redirected to somebody else who is going to answer. So why don't you focus on your insanity? Why don't you keep your calm and, like, focus that you really need to rest at the moment. And so if somebody has like a really bad emergency, if they can't reach you, I'm sure there's somebody else that they're going to reach, and they'll get to you when it's like really necessary. So I feel that concept like really helped me. I mean, again, if it's not practical enough, you don't have to do it. But social media, I'm sure we can do it. We can all turn off the notifications.
We can all do better at that. That's for sure. So if you're watching right now, just get out, throw the phone away. No, maybe just in like.
Maybe just keep this educational. It's so, and that's another thing that I really like. How this point came up. I don't think screens are bad or social media is bad. I think it's what we're doing with it is bad. Is social media using you, or are you using social media? It comes down to that question. Am I using the social media, or social media is using me? That's the thing that we need to ask ourselves. Like, what's the example for like, I'm using social media? Okay, so the educational live I'm watching right now, the Powerful Parenting Club live. So that's an educational. I am using the social media because I'm trying to learn something. But if I'm just mindlessly scrolling through, social media is definitely using me. We just watched on that documentary how targets. And I actually did an experiment after that. I was like, let me see, because I never used to watch videos and stuff. I was like, I'm gonna experiment this. How does this thing work? I literally focused on something, and those type of same videos would just pop in. And I was like, how in the world? I've never seen these videos before, and now this is all popping in. And it's whether it's a personal development too. Like, if you just start watching it and it just pops in, and it's like, okay, I need to put a boundary somewhere, and just maybe not watch from there, and just
yeah. I mean, the internet is watching you. That's for sure. We all like and sometimes it's wonderful because they will feed us something that we're really interested in. And other times it creates these crazy bubbles that we're all seemingly living in. And hopefully we can pop some of them and kind of get out and
for sure. And it's about us. Yeah, and it's at the end of the day, it's about us and our awareness and where we're taking it, right? Do I really want to go there? And first, another thing is we need to be aware of our own wants and desires and, like, the needs. That's another thing, that we don't even know if this is what I really want. I want it because he or she has it. Is that the only reason I want this? That's another thing that we parents need to, like, for example, buying vacation to my kids just because my friend bought vacation to her kids. That's another thing that we compare what we're giving it to our kids, or we never had it, so let me give it to my kids. We parents need to understand, is this really what my kid needs or wants, or looking for, or can benefit them for their higher purposes?
Yeah, and that's tricky, right? Because every kid is different and wants different things, and especially the different from what their parents want. Right? I'm sure, like, right now it's different. Like for us, it's like this, the silver lining of this pandemic is that our kids are at an age where they love being around us, which you can
Mm-hmm.
look at both ways, where it's completely overwhelming and exhausting, and the other side, it's, you know, it's kind of amazing. Like they want to hang out with us all the time. And when else in the history of the world would parents be able to do, you know, do that at some level? And obviously, I acknowledge some of the privilege that we have, that are able to have jobs that allow us to work remotely and continue to
Exactly.
do some of these things. But there's, you know, when you take that perspective shift and you can focus
I
in on
feel
those things,
I feel like, in during time of uncertainties and when we don't know what's going on, I really think that it's about wearing our attitude of gratitude is what's gonna make us win in the whole scenario. We really need to look at what came out good out of the situation rather than focusing on how many cases are going up. Because we can't change that, right? There is nothing that I or you can do anything about who's getting affected or how many cases are coming in neighborhood. We just can't do it. So
you can
rather,
you can promote mask wear, like you could promote some of the, like the basics to an extent, right? And there are people who are going to listen, there are people who aren't going to listen, or who actively will work against you. So there might be like some extent, but I guess finding the balance maybe of
yeah,
what's
it's very
appropriate.
important, right? Like, yes, knowing the facts is very important. Like, okay, this is what's happening. How can I protect me, my family, like, my surrounded people? What can I do? And focus on what can I do instead of, oh my gosh, I can't do anything about it. So when we and I believe, like, how we know, like, where we focus, that's where our energy goes. So if we focus on things that we can do, like, in boosting our immune system, or not going here, or wearing the mask, the small little things, or watching, not taking my kids out in public, or not doing the gatherings, things like that, what that we can do in our control, let's do that rather, right? And then,
Yeah.
rather than getting scared.
Self care is being thrown
Very
out the
important.
window right now. It's really bad for everyone's general health, and that's something I work with patients on all the time, is trying to get creative to say, okay, how do you build time in to do the things that are important from an exercise and from a movement standpoint? Because
Yeah,
there are always ways to do it, to find movement, even in situations where you wouldn't have expected it. But
yeah,
using that same, like what you're talking about, with that intention to say, okay, like I know I need to move more, so how do I do that? Once you start to think about it, you can notice and say, oh, you know what, like I'm getting in and out of chairs a lot. Why don't I do 5 squats every time I get in and out of a chair? And before you know it, you've done 100 squats
yeah.
in a day.
We won't even know. So
Yeah.
I in that, like, I'm not gonna do squats, even though you mentioned it. Even though I appreciate that exercise point, but no, thank you. I'd rather go walk.
There's plenty of opportunities to
Plenty of self care exercises that we can do, and, like, it's it's so important, because if we focus on our self-care as a parent too, like, our kids are watching and they're gonna do it too. Like, it's funny how our kids focus on self-care more than we do sometimes, that we don't even recognize that most of the time. Like, oh wow, that, because they're always active, they're always moving, they're getting that movement and the part of the exercise. We
Yeah.
don't, we're like, okay, yeah, I don't have time, oh, I gotta go to work, or I gotta cook now. It's like, it's hard, but at the same time, it's doable. Like, it's so.
I feel like one of my favorite examples of that is like when when we used to fly, when we used to go on airplanes, and if you look around an airplane and you look at what the 3-year-olds are doing versus what the adults are doing, and you say, like, oh wow, like that is what we need to be mirroring more of. We'd all seem kind of like crazy people, but getting up and moving around and changing positions and getting into funny, all sorts of funny, like, shapes, and wanting to walk up and down the aisles. Like, you can never get a 3-year-old to sit in an airplane
No,
seat for a 6-hour flight and
totally.
not have them moving around. But why do we as adults then find ourselves in these situations? And some of it's just, general etiquette,
Yeah,
right? But
I think we're so conditioned also by, by the way we're living, by the way, we're focusing on. Like sometimes it's like we get trapped, right, in the whole journey of life. But we need to remind ourselves that the life journey is not about being trapped, rather it's about transcending, our inner desires and wants and needs, and it's about living in the moment. It's just throwing those reminders like a confetti, in the air all day every day. But how can we do that? That's another thing that just comes across all the time. Like, how do I do this? Like, it's just, but when we focus, when we go inward, that's when we find this whole, that wants or needs to balance.
Yeah, and that's like your practice of meditation or mindfulness in general is something that gives you some of that ability to do that, to kind of distance yourself from some of like that negative energy or some of the other thoughts that are
Sure.
distracting you from it.
But I think most of the time also, like, we're all like, the word meditation has become like a fascinated word, and everybody's like either going away from it or like going, okay, yeah, maybe they're getting into it. But the most of the time people are scared of, whenever they think about meditation. But I feel meditation, like in my language, it translates as dhyan, which means taking care of yourself. In the meaning wise, dictionary meaning wise, about meditation, I feel like it's about being mindful throughout the day. Is also sort of, meditation, like washing dishes. How many times, like, for example, if you're washing dishes, what are we thinking? What bills do I have to pay? Did I do this? Did I buy this book? Did I do this for kids? Or, did we book this? Things like that's running. Did we ever notice what's the temperature of the water while we're washing the dishes? We don't get to do that. So if we bring,
only when it's really hot.
yeah, or either, it's just too hot. I feel like, just, looking at the dish, or like, washing that dish, like focusing on washing the dishes instead of like thinking about paying the bill, would bring our insanity back. And that's like that's a form of a meditation. And so most of the
Yeah.
time we all think like, oh, I have to sit like 30 minutes. You don't have to do that, like, in order for you to, yes, eventually you want to get to that, you want to sit with yourself, you want to, be with your thoughts and be comfortable with it. But you can start small, like focusing on the water while you're doing dishes, or if you're writing it, just focus on the writing. Or if you're listening to music, just focus on the words of the music and listen to the harmony, or walk or look at the trees. It's like small things that we can do, or just sit for 1 minute and do breathing. That's all. Just focus on your breath. Like, how many times do we even know, like, am I even breathing? We're just going up and down. We don't even understand, like, did I even breathe today? Sometimes we forget.
Most people have never paid attention to their breath,
Never.
and how their ribs expand and contract.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too. Like, it's not like, with 2 years ago when I enrolled myself into this meditation course, and I was like, man, I did not know about the diaphragmatic breathing. I didn't know that my belly has to go out when I breathe in, and when it has to go, in when I breathe out. I didn't know all that. Like, it's just so, sometimes it's just so funny how the basic concept of life we don't know. It's like we were taught, but we don't remember. Like, as a kid, if you notice, if you have a toddler, when you have a baby, if we notice how they're breathing, like that's how they're naturally breathing, like the bellies go up and down. But now, as an adult, when we're breathing, we're breathing so shallow. It's from chest. Like, there's nothing coming from belly, that we forget the true nature of our breathing.
Yeah, and that would be a whole other conversation, because we know how that affects the parasympathetic system and our cortisol response, and a whole other.
You would know better than anyone. But that's another thing. Like, we can do these exercises and bring ourselves back to the moment.
There's so many good things. I was muted myself. There's so many great things in exercises and activities that we could talk about all this stuff for hours. Yeah. I know we're really, really well aligned. I was just like thinking about when you were going into talking about toddlers there, the mindfulness, like when you watch a small child, and I have, I'm lucky to have a 10-month-old right now, who when she like grabs something in her hands, she explores it, every detail she is looking at, and like enjoying and soaking it all in. And as adults, we start to gloss over some of those things, which can be so beautiful and wonderful, and make our lives a lot richer. And that reminder, watching kids do that, kids are like, oh wow, like like this is kind of amazing. Like I'm holding a glass that somebody blew like out of into a specific shape, or built a machine. Like you see things about small things. It's like it can be mind blowing. Like there's so much amazing stuff around us that we don't know about. But so I know we've been chatting for a while. Is there anything else in particular that you'd like to cover that we didn't touch on before we finish up?
No. I just wanted to give those couple of things that we already talked about in this whole time. Like, wear the attitude of gratitude. Focus on your breath, focus on your breathing exercise, and if you're like really feeling that energy, the heaviness, just dance it off. Those are the three things that I really wanted to want to end it with. That I understand what we're going through. I understand we're all like surrounded by, but let's focus on what we can control. I can control my energy. You can control your energy. Let's focus on our breath. Let's wear the attitude of gratitude. Like, whatever is happening, it's happening for my good, and just shake off all the stagnant energy that's not serving me or you or anyone in the planet, on the planet right now. So yeah, those are the three things that I really wanted to end it with.
That's awesome. I love having your energy in my life right now. This is like brightening my mood and my day. So I appreciate you so much, just for not only for just taking your time with us, but also for sharing what you do with the world, because more people need to connect with this, and it really can make someone's life so much better. And we see so many different cases with different folks. So parents, if you are looking for a little bit of help or assistance, and you want to check out what Mital is doing. Check out her podcast. The podcast where I'm sure you talk for hours on end and have many more examples based off of what we were talking about today, which is Raise to Rise with Mital. And then we'll post your links in the description below. So for anyone who's tuning in late or watching on the replay, or maybe you just saw a second and you want to learn more, check out that stuff. And again, thank you so much for doing what you do and for taking some time during a crazy week to share some of your positive energy and your enthusiasm with life and raising kids. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, and folks, if you have other questions that we didn't cover but you think we could, feel free to drop it in the comments when you watch the replay, and we'll check back on it later. Yeah. All right, have a good night, and turn off your notifications now. All right, have a good night, everyone.
You too.